I've seen a lot of people rush out and buy the cheapest rack mount boxes or the budget gaming rigs that promise big numbers on paper, only to end up with a system that overheats in the office, chokes on a game launch, or forces them to upgrade components a month later. That regret curve is real, especially when you're spending hard-earned money on a machine that's supposed to do both serious work and high-end gaming. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. And I'm going to walk through why the quiet 4U rack mount might feel like a smarter buy or why you might still want to walk away. First off, let's talk about the environment this machine is meant for. A 4U rack mount isn't a living room console. It's something you'd slot into a server rack, a small office cabinet, or a home lab enclosure. If you've ever tried to squeeze a traditional tower into a cramped closet and then fought with airflow, you know the appeal of a purpose-built chassis. The quiet model comes with a brushed aluminum front panel that looks more like a mini data center than a gaming PC, and it's deliberately built to sit quietly even under load. That's a big win for anyone who wants to stream or edit video at 4K while the machine stays under a desk or in a server rack next to the networking gear. The heart of the system is the Intel Core i9-14900KF, a 24-core, 32-thread beast that pushes up to 5.1 GHz under boost. In real-world terms, that translates to being able to run multiple VMs, compile large code bases, and still drop into a 144 Hz title without noticeable stutter. I've tested the chip in a multi-track video editing workflow, think 12-camera 8K footage, and the render times were comparable to a high-end desktop that costs a few $1,000s more. The KF suffix means there's no integrated graphics, which is fine because the system pairs the CPU with an RTX 5070 Ti. That GPU, with 16 GB of GDDR7, handles ray-trace titles like Cyberpunk 2077 at 1440p with high settings and still leaves headroom for a second monitor running a live stream overlay. For content creators who need both GPU-accelerated encoding and a solid gaming experience, this combo cuts down the need for a separate render box. Now, let's address the storage and memory story. A 2TB NVMe SSD is generous for a single workstation, and the DDR5 32GB kit gives you enough bandwidth for heavy multitasking. In practice, I loaded Photoshop, Premiere Pro, a couple of Docker containers, and a Minecraft server all at once. The SSD never showed any bottleneck. File transfers from the SSD to an external NAS stayed at the upper gigabit range, and there was no audible lag when swapping between demanding apps. That's the kind of everyday usability that matters more than a headline spec sheet. But no machine is perfect, and the quiet rack mount has a few trade-offs you should weigh. Because it's a 4U chassis, the internal layout is tighter than a full tower. You get a single 120mm fan on the front and a larger exhaust on the back. The cooling is competent, but if you push the CPU and GPU together for long, say an 8th-hour gaming marathon or a non-stop render farm session, the temperatures will climb into the high 70s Celsius range. It's still within safe limits, but you'll notice the fan spin up louder than the quiet branding suggests. If you need a silent workstation for a sound recording studio, you might need to invest in an aftermarket liquid cooler or accept the modest fan noise. Another point is expandability. The rack mount offers a single PCIe 16 slot, which is where the RTX 5070 Ti lives, and two 2.5-inch drive bays. If you ever want to add a second GPU for compute work or a dedicated capture card, you'll be out of space. The same goes for additional storage. You'd have to rely on external solutions or replace the existing SSD. For most gamers and streamers, one high-end GPU and a 2TB SSD are plenty, but power users who anticipate scaling up later might find the chassis limiting. So who should actually consider buying this? If you run a small creative studio, a freelance editing business, or you're a streamer who wants a dedicated machine that can sit in a server rack while you keep your gaming rig on the desk, this is a solid match. The fact that the unit is assembled in the USA and comes with a stress-tested build gives a level of confidence that many cheap rack mount kits lack. It also means you can push it hard without worrying about subpar components that fail under load. On the other hand, if you're a pure gamer who wants a flashy case, RGB lighting, and the ability to swap out cards on the fly, you'll probably feel cramped. Likewise, Anyone on a tight budget might find the price steep compared to a standard tower that could deliver similar performance for a fraction of the cost. Let's talk about value beyond the spec sheet. The price includes Windows 11 Pro, which is a plus for businesses that need the extra management features and the system.